Yeah, so thanks for your attendance here today to announce the new coach of the Fremantle Dockers. The procedure will be that Fremantle President Steve Rosich makes some introductory comments, and then throw to the new coach of the Fremantle Dockers, Ross Lyon, and Fremantle Chief Executive Officer Steve Rosich. We'll have a few comments and we'll take questions after that. Thank you.
Yesterday afternoon we advised Mark Harvey that he would not continue as senior coach in 2012. This was a difficult and considered decision that we believe is in the best long-term interests of the club and our vision for sustained success. This club has had a continued focus on giving Mark the opportunity to develop as our senior coach. As part of our process of due diligence and planning, as the end of the current season approached, it was appropriate to review the market for experienced and proven coaches to ensure that they were on our radar for the commencement of the 2013 season, when Mark Harvey's existing contract would have concluded. We undertook this process so the club would be fully prepared in case, despite everyone's best endeavours, that we felt that we needed to look for a new senior coach in 2013. This was the basis that our informal talks with Ross Lyon began after our last game through CEO Steve Rosich. As these informal talks progressed, it became clear to both our club and to Ross that we could see an opportunity to work together in 2012. Yesterday afternoon, after 3 days of discussions this week, we reached an agreement with Ross and his legal representative, and we are pleased to announce today that Ross Lyon has been appointed as senior coach of the Fremantle Dockers for a term of 4 years. Ross is an experienced and proven AFL coach. He has coached St Kilda over the past 5 seasons to 4 finals appearances, 3 grand finals in the past 2 years. His win-loss ratio is 63%. This is the highest win-loss ratio of any AFL coach with more than 1 year experience in the AFL. We welcome Ross and his wife Kirsten and their children to the Fremantle Dockers and to Western Australia. Ross?
As a career AFL coach, I'm incredibly excited to be appointed the senior coach of the Fremantle Football Club, and I look forward to the challenges that lay ahead.
Just prior to questions, thought I'd clarify the process that's transpired over the last little while. Despite media reports that we've been in discussions for 5 to 6 weeks, that's simply not true. I first spoke with Ross after our last game of 2011 on 4 September. We had 2 conversations that week, and it was agreed that we would talk again after St Kilda's finals campaign had ended. The basis of our talks at that point were to put our club on the radar to Ross for 2013, given that Ross had a contract for 2012 and we had a contracted coach. In our talks earlier this week that followed St Kilda's finals loss to Sydney, it was clear to both the club and Ross that we could see an opportunity to work together, that Ross had an appropriate out clause in his contract, and that it may be appropriate to start looking at an opportunity to work together for 2012. After 3 days of discussions this week, we reached an agreement yesterday.
Ross, do you feel you've stabbed Mark Harvey in the back?
Not particularly, no. I've been headhunted by the Fremantle Football Club, certainly taking through a PowerPoint presentation the club's resources, their future direction and what they want to achieve. And an attractive offer was put in front of me. I'm an AFL career coach. I have a young family, 3 children and a wife. They are my purpose. And at the other end, I had no involvement or no understanding of the relationship between Fremantle Football Club and Mark Harvey. So as I sit here today, I hold my head high.
Mr Harris, given that the club was going around behind Mark Harvey's back to do this deal, were you able to look Harvey in the eye when you sacked him?
Yes, absolutely.
With a clear conscience?
In terms of that, just to answer the question, we reached agreement with Ross yesterday after conversations which clearly progressed very quickly, within a very short space of time. In fact, within minutes of Ross advising St Kilda of his right to exercise the option to exit his contract. We spoke to Mark personally, face to face, and clearly delivered what is a very difficult decision.
And is this a public relations disaster, Steve? Is this a public relations disaster? Yesterday, Mark Harvey turns up at a football function, unaware of his future, which had already been decided.
So just to qualify, no, it hadn't. There was only a position reached. on both the resolution of Mark's tenure as senior coach of the club and also the appointment of Ross Lyon yesterday afternoon.
But at that point he was being misled about your intent, wasn't he? He thought he was going to be coaching next year.
Yes.
You clearly thought that was not a possibility. Why weren't you upfront with it from the start?
It clearly was a possibility. And at that point in time, it clearly was a possibility.
Are you really saying that at a particular point in time yesterday afternoon, he was only ruled out then?
At a particular point in time yesterday afternoon, off the cuff around about 4 o'clock, 3:30 Perth time, that position was reached, yes.
What did Mark Harvey do wrong?
Look, in terms of Mark, firstly, Mark's been a passionate football person for a long time and a passionate, great servant of the Fremantle Footy Club for the last 6 years. Every year, twice yearly, we sit down and review Mark's performance, which clearly looks at Mark's development areas. Those areas are private and confidential and are due respect to Mark and all parties concerned. And we've made an assessment that Ross Lyon, an experienced, capable coach with a track record of success, is the right person to take the Fremantle Football Club forward to our aim of sustained success.
Mr. Harris said that you were the right fit culturally for the club. Can you explain that, given that they've probably just trashed the culture and you just walked out on St Kilda? What's the culture?
Well, I think if we clarify walking out of St Kilda, I've exercised, when I reached the agreement with St Kilda Football Club over my last contract extension, they wrote in a 6-month exit when I was asking for a full guarantee, and on the back of that, a 3-month written resignation clause and an out was put in for me if circumstances for either party arose where they wanted to exercise those options, they could. So that situation arose for me. So I've done nothing unlawful but exercise an option that was written into my contract. There's been there over the last couple of years, and I've done that.
So you've been accused of duplicitous misconduct on the other side of the country. Did you make a public commitment to St Kilda earlier this week?
I think, just to clarify that, I heard the St Kilda press conference. It's been a wonderful 5 years for both parties. Both parties achieved a lot, ultimately fell short. St Kilda are clear in thanking me for my time there, although disappointed, and they're really keen about the future and new direction, as am I.
Ross, a big part of your coaching has been loyalty and integrity. How can you honestly say that you've been loyal and held integrity with St Kilda after what's happened and what you've told the players?
Well, just let me reiterate, my conversations with the players are just speculation and reporting, so they happen behind closed doors.
The players say they are surprised that you had indicated you were staying and coming back next year.
Well, that's a point of conjecture.
What's the substance of the
I sit here very comfortable with my integrity and my honour. I've exercised a clause in my contract. My negotiations were started in April. I asked for a 4-year unconditional deal. That wasn't forthcoming until Wednesday afternoon.
Why has your management then terminated your deal?
That's good. Just let me clarify that. There was a clear conflict of interest once contact was made. And it was inappropriate to engage ESP, who were my new management arm, in conversations. I engaged a legal advisor from Clarendon Lawyers, who then conducted negotiations with and for me.
So your conscience is clear with regards to the two.
Hang on, I'll just get back to ESP, please.
Yep.
And with ESP, when I informed them, we both mutually agreed that it was best that they could no longer manage me because they were concerned about perception in the marketplace, even though they had not one conversation regarding this.
Mr. Harris, do you think this just crystallises in people's minds now that, in fact, there is no loyalty in football anymore and it's just every man for himself?
Before I answer that question, I'd just like to address the earlier question about Andrew Demetrio's comments. I've spoken to Andrew this morning because I think his comments are inappropriate. I've advised him of that. He doesn't have a first-hand understanding of what has transpired. He's expressed to me that his comments were personal opinion, and I don't think he's fully informed in the situation. Andrew's got strong opinions on a lot of things. In this case, he's ill-informed.
Well, what about this demonstrates integrity, though?
We have at all times in this process carried out to the letter of the contract with everyone's contract, and when you have employment discussions between individuals, as everyone in this room would be aware, necessarily you need to keep them confidential.
Can I just bring you back to my question, mate?
Yes.
There's no loyalty in football now, is there? It's everyone out for themselves. It's just business now.
I don't think there's no loyalty, but I think clearly there is an expectation from members and supporters that clubs will do their utmost to play finals and win premierships.
Right, so anyone there's no expression of loyalty to anyone. I mean, that takes secondary position to success.
I think the real issue is that what people want is they want to see their clubs play finals and win premierships.
Well, yesterday morning, what level of commitment did you think that you had to Mark Harvey?
Well, as of yesterday morning, Mark was our senior coach, and we reached a position.
With a year to run of his contract,
in the
while you were
afternoon
talking to somebody that you were at least half expecting to replace him.
we were exploring a possibility.
Well, you were hoping, weren't you?
We were exploring a possibility. Clearly, we were hoping, because we've identified Ross as an experienced, capable coach that we think is a great fit for the Fremantle Football Club.
So
don't you think you owed it to him to
consulted yesterday?
No, they weren't.
Are they now divided about this?
No, the players were informed yesterday afternoon, just prior to the media release of our decision with respect to Mark, and they in fact being briefed at the club as we speak.
So they had no say in the decision?
No, this is a process which the board and executive are responsible for.
So are they now divided? That was the question.
No, our playing group is a solid playing group. We're very comfortable, and from the few conversations that I have had with the players, they're very much looking forward to working with Ross.
Ross, do you think your reputation has been tarnished by this?
Well, it's an opinion business. As I said, I sit very comfortably with my unconditional commitment to the St Kilda Football Club in my tenure there, and my support for St Kilda and the players, as was their unconditional commitment to me and support. All I've done is exercise. Negotiations went on for a long time, and an opportunity arose where, as a career AFL coach, I was to be satisfied. And when you look around in the environment, as an incumbent AFL coach, what occurred at a number of other AFL clubs, you can understand a career AFL coach looking for security and resource. And all I've done is exercise the option in my contract to do the right thing by myself and my family.
So when you preach loyalty to your players, which you'll do, how do you look the players in the eyes over the next 2 years when Greater Western Sydney are sniffing around? How do you then look them in the eye and say, show loyalty to the football club?
I'll just take you back a little bit. You're making a big assumption, as I'm hearing a lot about the word loyalty. In my 5 years at St Kilda, I've never used the word loyalty for a player. So they're outside perceptions, and perceptions that you think an AFL coach uses to motivate his players. It's not in any pre-game or Monday to Friday talk to me. So let's just clarify that. So it's an assumption that you're making that is wrong.
Mr. Rosich, given that it's a business decision, and this has been based on business, did you inform your sponsors, the club sponsors, before you sacked Harvey?
As a matter of process, shortly after informing Mark directly, it was a very tight time frame, clearly, to releasing a media release. Scott Gooch, our general manager and commercial partner, contacted a number of our key sponsors in advance.
So they were spoken to after Harvey was sacked.
Well, are you the first $1 million coach in the AFL? Will you be the first $1 million coach in the AFL?
I'd be unaware of that because I have no inclination or no desire to know what anyone else is earning, and I don't think it's appropriate for anyone else to know what I earn.
How is the deal being funded though? Is it through the increased AFL rights? And clearly you've been given an attractive package here.
I would like to echo what Ross said. In terms of the actual specific terms, they're private and confidential in a professional context. We believe we've struck a very commercial deal with Ross. It is clear that this is not a financial decision by Ross. It's an opportunity to work with a football club that is mutually beneficial, and we want to secure success together.
Have your major sponsors tipped in extra, like Woodside tipped in extra to sort of fund this move?
No.
So why did you leave St Kilda, Ross? Do you feel that you can't make them go any further if they've given you or offered you the same length of deal as what Fremantle has?
I think I'll refer you to what I said earlier and echo the sentiments of Greg Westaway and Michael Nerfold. It was a strong 5-year relationship. There was enormous amounts achieved. Ultimately, we fell short, and both parties leave hungry for a premiership and an opportunity to do that with their respective clubs.
So Ross, what can you achieve with Fremantle? Everyone obviously has a strong view about how they can get better, and you've got a proven record as a coach. What do you think is the potential of this squad?
It's about possibility. You can be what you want to be, and that's my whole philosophy. And then once you decide what you want to be, you've got to bring that to life by getting into work. Every moment of the day, you've got to pursue excellence. So you're either getting closer to your goal or you're getting further away. So that's the philosophy I bring, and that's what we'll be pursuing. And all I know is, if you don't prepare every moment of the day in that manner, you're getting further away from your goal.
Ross, Mark Harvey's going to see this. What would you like to say?
Well, certainly, what it is what it is. I'm now appointed the Fremantle coach, but as I said, I was headhunted by the Fremantle Football Club. I certainly, at the other end of that, it wasn't my responsibility or my desire to make that position available. The contract was put in front of me, I was courted, I was shown all the resources of the club. It was an attractive proposition. Certainly there's strong empathy, but at the end of the day, it wasn't my responsibility to make the position available. I just accepted.
Do you think it's fair?
It's not a judgment I would like to make. It's, as the media in Melbourne say, it's a harsh, brutal environment, AFL football.
What did you tell the secure players, Ross?
Well, again, there's lots of assumptions. I spoke to 3 players. I personally, Nick Rewalt, after I went from ESP 6:15, when we mutually decided it was inappropriate and they were really concerned, obviously. I drove up to the Epworth. Nick had just come out of operation with his partner, Catherine, and just out of recovery. And I was fortunate that he hadn't been informed by anyone else. And obviously we had an emotional, probably 20 minutes together, but again, that's for me and Nick to share. And then I drove to Lenny Hayes' house and spoke to Lenny Hayes in Brighton. And obviously I received some text messages which I responded in kind. But again, they're private. We've been through a lot together, and all I know is they go for Grant Thomas, they go for me, and they'll give to their next coach, and they're hungry, and I wish them all the best.
Having raised ESP, their CEO Craig Kelly says that the manner in which this was done was inconsistent with the values which football should uphold. Can I ask you, Mr. Lyon, what values do you think represent football these days?
Well, I think you'd have to ask Craig.
No, I'm asking you.
So,
what do you think of the values of football?
What I think the values in football, the values are about hard work, discipline, mental toughness, and a desire to compete every moment of the game.
No, values are more about honour and loyalty and respect, aren't they?
Well,
all the other stuff's just stuff you do.
Well, there are emotive terms that you're using, and I'm not here to debate the values that exist in AFL football.
Are those who show loyalty to a club misguided then? Because you said earlier that you've never used loyalty as a motivating factor for your players.
Well, what I will say is Lee Matthews is one of the great coaches of all time. I think he sums up loyalty in the AFL better than anyone. When you're paid and you're contracted, you give every effort you can with unconditional commitment to that club, and that is loyalty, and we're all passing through. And when you leave, walk out the door with dignity.
If I can add, just from a club perspective, and we're loyal to our aim, to our members, our supporters, our sponsors, our corporate partners, and particularly our players, to give them the best opportunity to secure success. And we believe that recruitment of Ross Lyon does that.
The coach is somewhere down the bottom of that list then? You didn't mention the coach.
Well, I'm talking about the specific appointment of Ross.
Ross, just quickly, you talked about the generics of the footy club. In terms of what the fans want to know for next year and beyond, is this a list that you think should be playing finals in 2012? Just give us something in layman's terms.
Well, I think I've said it's very early days. It's been a whirlwind. I think it'd be remiss of me to make outlandish predictions. It's about premierships are won with strong pre-seasons, a strong leadership group and a strong game plan, and those foundations are all laid in the next 5 months. So it would be outlandish to make predictions, but we're in the business of trying to win premierships, so that's where it sits.
Sure, you wouldn't come over, Ross, without seeing a bit of potential in this list.
Well, I think that's self-evident.
Well, there's clubs out there publicly looking for a coach. Did you see something in Fremantle that drew you to them more than the others?
I didn't certainly solicit any offers, so if that's what you're alluding to. I was approached, I was engaged, and because of the circumstances of lack of extension and process, you know, it happened.
Did the Ricky Nixon affair wear you down, Ross? Was that a factor in the...
We're very persistent. I feel like I've answered. I had a great time at St Kilda. I've worked really hard and I've moved on, and it's about the Fremantle Football Club, and all I know is I can't change past events.
Ross, how hard is it to arrive at a club where the members and fans don't appear to want you? The words that keep coming up are disgraceful and disgusting, and there's talk about burning down...
Can I just address that? I don't think that's true.
Well, yellow bellies was another word they used.
I've had, and the club has had, and Steve and other senior people at the club have had multiple messages of support, congratulations,
You haven't listened to radio this morning.
as well.
You haven't listened to radio this morning.
Can I just say, I was involved in a club that went through a season. I was 18 points off the perfect season and lost 2 games for the year. There's always going to be a large percentage of people that have differing opinions and aren't happy with the coach or players or captain or management of the club. So I think you've got to understand that goes with the territory.
But these people seem to be saying that this is staying the integrity of the club.
Again, our responsibility is to make decisions which are in the best interest of the long-term future of the club.
So that means anything goes, does it?
Executive and board have considered this carefully and have come to a decision to appoint Ross. We're delighted with that appointment and we're looking forward to pre-season getting away pretty quickly.
What was the conversation you had with Mark?
It was clearly a very difficult conversation. It was a direct conversation in our boardroom. Myself, Steve Harris and Chris Bond were present. To look Mark in the eye, it was very difficult out of the relationship that we built in the time working together. He was clearly disappointed I wish Mark, his family, Donna, Tran Page all the best.
Mr. Lyon, we're with a bunch of fans, Dockers fans, who are watching this go out live, watching you live. Apparently, when you said you didn't stab Harvey in the back, there were angry shouts from those fans. They obviously don't believe you.
Yes, can you just repeat that from the start because I missed the opening?
Well, when they're watching you live, and when you said that you didn't stab Mark Harvey in the back, those fans reacted very angrily.
Yeah, well, as I said here today, you can just judge me on my future actions and my commitment to the Fremantle Football Club. I'm not going to get involved in emotive terms. So they're entitled to their opinion, and I can't change that.
Ross, will you try and speak to Mark Harvey at some stage to try and clean the air?
Well, it's not something I've considered at this point.
When you said there was an end of the era, Ross.
From the fans or members, Steve?
Oh, look, again, echoing Ross's thoughts, there's clearly going to be in any decision, which is a significant decision, this one is, that not everyone's going to agree with it. Our board, our executive have all the information in front of them, and we believe we've made a decision which is absolutely in the best interest of our football club and therefore our members, supporters, sponsors and corporate partners.
Do you expect to lose any members? There's a lot of people saying that they're going to burn their memberships and give up their memberships.
That's clearly a personal decision which we don't
care.
Well, I do care. We're very proud to have 43,000 passionate members and we're looking forward to continue to work as hard as we can to deliver success for that membership group, and this is what this decision is about.
Have you spoken to the playing group at all yet, Ross?
No.
Do you intend to speak to them today?
No.
Try to iron Ross, how does purple feel on you?
How does it look?
Ross, about you.
Can you feel the colour? Yeah, I think you can.
Ross, when you said end of an era the other day, did you have any inclination, any know whatsoever then that this might take place?
With Fremantle Football Club?
With
no. The end of the era, and I clarified that with the CEO during the week, that was certainly about a conversation of retirements and the reality if you can't win a home final that Eddie had against an interstate club, when you've been to the levels of performance that club had been, it was self-evident that it was the end of an era and that change would be taking place.
For you?
To this level, no, at that point, there'd been no serious discussion as opposed with Steve. I think he gave the date, which was 4th of September. It was really just that, I'm coming into Melbourne, can I touch base? And then Fremantle professionally were able to lock and load a 4-year term that had satisfied me within 72 hours in comparison to 6 months. So in the end, it was a relatively easy.
So are you saying it was Secure's fault that they didn't move quick enough that you left?
No, I'm just saying, when I said end of the era, it certainly didn't pertain to the contract with Fremantle. I was highlighting what occurred.
Mr. Harris,
did you feel comfortable yesterday at breakfast knowing it was possible that was going to happen later in the day?
I knew it was possible, but it was an inevitable thing. What do? You can't change the circumstances. So I sat there.
At that point in time, there wasn't an agreement reached.
So is this a case where the board believes the end can justify the means, and if Ross takes you to your first premiership, your members and fans who are angry now will forgive everything you've done?
Our view is very solid around the fact that the board is unanimous, the senior management of the club are unanimous that this is the best decision for the football club.
When does the board make the decision, Steve? This is a decision that must be ratified by the board. And as I understand it, does it also have to be ratified by the WA Football Commission?
It does not need to be, and this is the last question, it does not need to be ratified by the WA Football Commission, and the board signed off on this yesterday.
Well, should you have had a say in the future of 4 players at St Kilda if you thought you might not be there?
Pardon?
Should you have had a say in the careers of 4 players at St Kilda?
Well, look, I don't want to live in the past, to be honest, but out of respect, I'll answer your question. That's a match committee and list management decision with Chris Pelchin and Michael Gardner was a self-retiree. One was a rookie list player that had been demoted. And so it wasn't a universal decision made by me. It was by committee and list management. And as I said, I'm very proud of those players and the way we thank them for the service at St Kilda.
Thank you.